What if everything that seems to be falling apart in your life right now is actually a sign that you're on the threshold of the most profound soul connection you have ever known? According to Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, collapse, whether in your beliefs or your material life, has never truly been a crisis or an illness. Rather, these are signs that your soul is evolving, that you are stepping onto a wondrous journey, the journey of becoming yourself, whole and powerful. Here are 18 signs that this great journey is truly beginning within you. Stage 1. Nigredo, the great dismantling. This is the darkest stage, yet it is an essential foundation for any true growth. At first glance, it appears to be a loss, but in truth, it is a process of purification and preparation for something new to emerge. Sign 1. The cracking of the ego, the first disillusionment. Pause for a moment. Gently observe yourself. Are you mindlessly scrolling through social media each night instead of resting after a long day of work? Do you feel exhausted even when you're just sitting in an air-conditioned office? Do you have everything that American society praises? House, car, career, yet deep inside feel like an uninhabited home? These are the first, easy-to-spot signs that your ego is starting to crack. In Jung's theory, the ego is like an outer shell, the center of consciousness, where we identify ourselves through social roles, routines, achievements, or the fear of being abandoned. Over time, most people mistake this external structure for the entirety of who they are. But in reality, the self is your truest being, who you were born as, before the world taught you who you should become. And the self, the deepest core of your being, exists beyond the reach of the ego's control. It's only when the feeling of "I'm no longer who I used to be" arises, only when the ego begins to crack, that the light of the self can shine through, inviting you back to yourself. You begin to long for the feeling of truly living rather than just existing. Sign 2. The death within. After the cracking of the ego, you'll enter a dark landscape where outward life seems to have come to a halt. What once brought you joy, work, entertainment, relationships, now feels meaningless, faded like watercolor that has been washed away. Maybe you no longer feel interested in the things you once loved. A sense of numbness creeps in each morning, and emptiness settles in like an abyss that no one on the outside can see. Jung called this stage Nigredo, the putrefaction phase in inner alchemy. Imagine a winter field when everything has decayed and rotted away. No flowers, no greenery, only a cold, dark landscape. Yet, even then, beneath the surface, seeds are quietly incubating, preparing for a new season of growth. The emptiness you feel is not a sign of something broken, nor is it an illness. It is a sign that your soul is growing. Many people become frightened and try to speed up this process by keeping themselves busy or by seeking instant pleasures. But it's precisely in surrender, in letting things be, that you truly have a chance to hear the deepest voice of your soul. Jung once wrote, "There is no rebirth without a death." You are not broken. You are being incubated, just as dark soil is needed for seeds to rise. Try listening to that numbness. Don't judge it too quickly. It is a space of pause where your soul is healing itself, quietly preparing for a new form. However, it's essential to clearly distinguish between the signs of a spiritual awakening process and the symptoms of clinical depression. Depression is like a dense, suffocating night that gradually drains your will to live, leaving you feeling so hopeless and powerless that you no longer wish to exist. Nigredo, the dark night of the soul, in Jung's language, is also painful and obscured, but within it there still remains a quiet, observing awareness, a sense that you are waiting for something to emerge from the depths of crisis. In Nigredo, even in moments of despair, you can still sense that you are moving through it, that "I will get through this" that transformation is possible and somehow expected. If you find yourself unable to get out of bed, losing all life energy and motivation for many consecutive days, especially longer than 2 weeks, or having thoughts of harming yourself, please seek professional support immediately. The spiritual healing journey can only truly begin when your mental health is protected. Allow trained professionals to walk beside you, and remember that asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Sign 3. The rising of the unconscious. Strange whispers. As the surface of consciousness begins to crack, something remarkable happens. The unconscious starts to rise. That's when you notice your intuition becoming sharper, strange gut feelings appearing, or synchronicities happening more and more often. Suddenly, you're intensely drawn to a new idea, a path you'd never considered before, or a vague premonition that just won't fade. You keep seeing symbols or repeating spiritual numbers, like catching 11:11 on the clock, or maybe you're debating whether to leave a job that's been draining you every day. And suddenly the radio plays your father's favorite song, the very one who always encouraged you to live bravely. None of these are random. This is what Carl Jung called compensation by the unconscious. When your life becomes overly rational, too tightly controlled, the unconscious rises up to restore balance by bringing new energies to the surface. The coincidences, intuitions, and dreams are all messages sent from the deepest part of you to help restore equilibrium, so you don't just live on the surface, but start to live from the very core of your being. Try pausing, breathing deeply, and asking yourself, what whispers are calling my name? What coincidences have shown up recently? And what message might they carry? Is there something illogical that somehow feels deeply important or magnetic? Don't rush to dismiss these signals. Sometimes, the soul's voice is loudest when the ego is silent. This isn't the time to struggle, to control, or to try to explain everything away. It's the time to observe, accept, and listen deeply within. Sign 4. The emergence of the shadow. Facing the monster in the mirror. Yet as you observe these inner changes, you'll inevitably encounter strong, negative emotions you thought you had buried, rising up, powerful and uncontrollable. At times, you may find yourself suddenly angry for no reason, jealous or selfish, feelings you've tried so hard to suppress and hide behind your masks of morality, politeness, or strength. There may even be moments when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person you see. Why am I like this? This isn't me. Carl Jung called this part the shadow. Those hidden corners of the soul we always avoid, deny, or blame on others. Have you ever found yourself deeply resenting a coworker for being lazy? According to Jung, it's very possible that your own shadow is crying out because you too long for rest, but your moral self won't allow it. You dislike them because they dare to do what you strictly forbid yourself from doing. The shadow isn't just evil or weakness. It contains all the parts of ourselves that aren't acceptable to society's standards, or that have been wounded and had to be hidden away. Anger, desire, vulnerability, fear of failure. When the shadow surfaces, you may feel afraid, ashamed, or disgusted with yourself. But this is only the beginning of real growth. Jung emphasized, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Sign 5. Inner conflict intensifies, the battleground of opposites. After the shadow emerges, a new struggle begins within you, the conflict between opposing aspects of your soul. One day you yearn for freedom, for adventure, for breaking free from all constraints. The next day, you crave safety, wanting to return to old routines, afraid of all the changes. Sometimes you deeply want connection, to be close to someone, but then you withdraw, retreating into your solitary shell. You might feel love and hate at once, longing to break free, yet flooded with anxiety. Jung described this stage as enantiodromia, a phenomenon where everything, pushed to its extreme, naturally turns into its opposite. It's a natural psychological mechanism, guiding us toward deeper integration. Instead of hastily picking a side or denying a part of yourself just to stabilize, try allowing both extremes to exist at once. Within each of us is always a battlefield, where reason argues with emotion, desire wrestles with fear, and the old and new continually pull against each other. Many fear this conflict as a sign of disorder, collapse, or even failure of spirit. But Jung saw it as a necessary purification. If you dare to sit with these contradictions, if you are patient enough not to rush to a decision, you'll discover something remarkable. From that very tension, a third solution will arise, a new path that transcends both opposites. This is when the self, your whole and true being, begins to speak. Remember, inner conflict does not mean you are wrong or broken. It is a signal that you are truly transforming. Don't force yourself to be stable or to control every feeling. Let them all be present, and watch to see what really emerges from the storm within. Sign 6. Rejecting old success, the emptiness of fame. Then, there comes a moment when you look back at your achievements. A stable job, a coveted salary, a beautiful home, society's compliments, and suddenly, it all feels meaningless, like ashes. You may even feel ashamed of the things you once chased with such passion, which now seem empty, bringing no real joy. What once counted as success, the destination you had always aimed for, now becomes a gilded cage, trapping you in a cycle you can't escape. Jung called this the moment when the social mask, persona, has become depleted. The persona is the mask you put on each day to fit others' expectations, to feel like you belong, to be accepted and admired. But the longer you live with that mask, the further you drift from yourself. At this point, a truth becomes clear. Living by other people's standards will never fill the emptiness inside. Once you see this, you begin to reject those old definitions of success. You stop measuring your worth by the balance in your bank account or the titles on your door. You no longer force yourself to be perfect, just to receive applause that may not even be sincere. Instead, you yearn for a more genuine kind of success, where every step feels meaningful, where you wake up each day feeling true to your deepest self. Success is no longer about having more, but about becoming more yourself. This is a time full of anxiety, but also incredible freedom. You are allowed to let go of what no longer belongs to you, to search for what is true. It is the beginning of a new definition of success, not one meant for the masses, but one meant for you, for the soul that is growing inside you, day by day. These are the 6 signs of the Nigredo stage, when everything familiar has been swept away or rendered meaningless. Once you pass through these dark transitions, you may find yourself in a strange, quiet space, no longer torn apart by the fierce struggles between old and new, but not yet able to see any clear light ahead. Stage 2. Incubation, withdrawal, and reconnection. Just as a seed needs time underground to germinate, this is the period when you turn inward. The outer world fades so the inner voice can come through more clearly. Sign 7. Strange dreams, the language of the divine. One of the clearest signs of this transformation is the arrival of vivid, unusual dreams. Many people share that they often dream of floods, collapsing houses, deaths, or images rich in myth. Strange animals, unfamiliar yet intimate faces, mysterious symbols that appear over and over. From Jung's perspective, dreams are letters sent from the unconscious, a way for the deepest parts of you to deliver messages that the ego, the waking mind, can't receive through reason alone. When outer life has gone dark, the unconscious begins to speak in the language of symbols. It could be a snake, a symbol of rebirth, a flood signifying overwhelming emotion, cleansing, or death, the end of an old cycle to make way for something new. It's no coincidence that the incubation stage often brings such powerful dreams. Dreams are the inner map, the soul's GPS, guiding you through territory no one has traversed before. That's why writing down your dreams, even just a few scattered fragments, can gradually reveal patterns, messages, or clues essential for your deep inner growth. Sign 8. Withdrawing from the crowd. Sacred solitude. You'll begin to notice that small talk, aimless gatherings, and the background noise of social media or the news suddenly feel draining, heavy. You feel compelled to seek absolute quiet, to spend time alone, or to connect only with a few people who feel truly safe on a soul level. This can create an inner conflict. On one hand, you may feel isolated, different, out of sync with your old pace of life. On the other, this quiet helps you hear your inner voice more clearly, to notice your deepest wishes or old wounds that have never been listened to. Jung called this withdrawal from the collective consciousness. The process of individuation, returning to yourself, always requires a period of retreat from the whirlwind of collective values, daring to live with loneliness, to face emptiness, and from there, to discover your own uniqueness and difference. Remember, you are not lonely. You are savoring the sacred privacy of being with yourself. Just like a butterfly needs its time hidden in the cocoon, this stage is a gift your soul gives you, the stillness to reconnect, to heal, and to hear the pulse of your deepest self. Sign 9. Feeling unmotivated, the calm before the storm. After withdrawing from the noise of society and listening deeply within, you may unexpectedly find yourself in a state that feels like your soul has gone on strike. A sense of lost motivation. Things that once inspired you now seem dull. Old goals no longer urge you forward, and the disciplined routines that once gave you a sense of order now feel heavy and burdensome. Sometimes you wonder if you're just being lazy or even regressing. In truth, this is an extremely important phase that Carl Jung called the liminal space, a threshold state, in between the old and the new, between what has died and what is still forming, but not yet ready to bloom. Imagine a field after the harvest. The earth looks empty, as if all life has drained away. But in reality, the soil is resting, healing, and quietly preparing nourishment for the next season. This quietness is the promise of a future, stronger rebirth. So if you try to force yourself to feel inspired, to maintain your old achievements, you'll only end up more depleted. This is the time to release the pressure of having to do something and learn to listen for the genuine inner impulse. Don't burn fuel when your engine is idling. Allow yourself to pause, observe, recover, and wait for a signal from your own soul. Sign 10. Childhood memories return. Finding your original self. When the quiet is deep enough, old memories may suddenly surface. Fragments from childhood, simple pleasures, scents or sensations you haven't touched in years. It might be a memory of lazy afternoons spent playing alone, a favorite toy, or the pure joy you once felt in small things, undimmed by any societal mold. Carl Jung called this the return of the divine child archetype, a symbol for your most original self, untouched by expectations, doctrines, or the fears that come with growing up. That child carries within them creativity, innocence, curiosity, and the courage to face the unknown. When these memories appear, it isn't just nostalgia. They are reminders of your true nature, the pure, free, and vibrant part of you that adulthood sometimes leaves behind. This is the moment to reconnect with your roots, to revisit your most innocent desires, to remember that no matter how much the outside world changes, within you there is always a divine seed, ready to sprout and guide you into a brighter new chapter. Welcome those childhood memories as part of your journey home, home to yourself, whole and unburdened by the need to be perfect. These are all the signs of the time of withdrawal and turning inward. By now, you have quietly reconnected with your primal self. Listen to the call from deep within your soul and learn to accept stillness, pauses, and even the memories you thought you had forgotten, all as preparation for a true rebirth from within. Stage 3. Rebirth, the emerging self and new power. If the previous stage was like a long night nurturing a seed, then this is the moment when the seed breaks through the surface, greeting the first light. You begin to step out into the world, no longer wearing the thick mask of the past, but with your true face, whole, carrying both scars and light. Sign 11. Connected to something greater. Humility before the universe. In this stage, you feel yourself as a small part of a vast, mysterious universe. This feeling might arise when you stand before the endless sea, gaze up at a sky full of stars, or even in everyday moments that suddenly touch a sense of nameless sacredness. You recognize that the events, turns, and even the pain you have endured all seem to carry a deeper reason, one that the mind cannot easily explain. This is a state of the numinous that Jung described, a feeling of both awe and being cared for by an invisible force, something beyond the personal ego. According to Jung, this is the moment when the ego, the part of you that always wanted to control and understand everything, lets go, making space for the self, the deepest aspect of your being, gradually connecting to the collective unconscious. You sense that you are no longer alone on this journey. The universe, or a greater soul, is quietly accompanying and guiding each step you take. Imagine yourself as an instrument in the orchestra of the cosmos. You are still unique, but every note you play now harmonizes with a whole. As this connection grows, the fear of being lost or alone fades away, because you feel the gentle hand of fate, no matter how unpredictable the world around you remains. Sign 12. Losing fear of suffering. Pain as a teacher. The greatest inner maturity is not about never experiencing suffering, but about no longer fearing or running from it. Gone are the days of using work, distractions, or shallow relationships to numb your pain. Instead, you can now sit down and face every raw emotion, whether it's sadness, despair, or your most vulnerable moments. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Pain here is no longer the enemy, but a teacher, showing you the way, teaching you to listen, and helping you grow from within your own brokenness. Like an athlete who is not afraid to step into the pain zone so their body can develop, the soul too only truly grows through the collisions it cannot avoid. The most beautiful image at this point is you, patient, silent, embracing your wounds as a sacred part of your journey. Peace no longer comes from avoiding hardship, but from knowing that, no matter how fierce the storm outside, you can sit quietly with yourself, no longer afraid. Sign 13. Irresistible creative urge, a channel for energy. Now, you suddenly feel a strange surge within you, a compulsion to write, to draw, to create, to build, to dance, or simply to plant a tree or cook a meal with a quiet, personal joy. What's remarkable is that you no longer care whether you do these things for a living, for praise, or to prove yourself. All the titles and outside purposes suddenly seem unnecessary. You create simply because you cannot create. Jung called this the call of primal creativity, the flow of energy from the self, bursting through you like water from an underground spring that's been blocked for too long. Creativity here is no longer a product or result to be measured, but a form of healing action. When you paint a picture that no one will see or cook a meal for yourself alone, you are allowing your unconscious to take form in the living world. This is the self manifesting in every ordinary action. Watch children at play. They build sandcastles, sing without a care, dance to a melody in their minds. There is no goal, No competition, just the pure joy of creating. That's the pure flow of creativity that adulthood often hides away. Now, as you enter this empowered stage, you allow yourself to live with that energy again, whether or not the world understands. Sign 14. Old relationships fall away. Social purification. Alongside this burst of creativity, you also begin to notice something both strange and challenging. Relationships that once felt close now become distant or quietly drift away without any clear reason. It might be friends you've known since school, colleagues who once stood by you in hard times, or even family members. Awkwardness, distance, and a sense of no longer being on the same wavelength start to appear more and more. According to Jung, this isn't because you've become difficult or unpleasant, but simply because your vibrational frequency has changed. As the old ego dissolves, you no longer need to maintain social masks. You also no longer have the energy to sustain connections based only on habit, expectation, or fear of abandonment. This purification isn't always comfortable, but it is a clear sign of genuine growth. Imagine your soul as a garden. When spring comes, old withered branches naturally fall away, making space for new shoots to reach up. Relationships are the same. When you change, people who no longer fit your new self will leave. It's a natural law, and there's no need to force anything. The message here is, don't rush to hold on to relationships that have completed their role in your life. Trust that as you live more authentically, new, resonant people, new friendships and connections will appear, not to fill a void, but to walk alongside you on this new journey, with more freedom and authenticity than ever before. Sign 15. Accepting imperfection, from perfection to wholeness. Another profound shift you gradually notice. You are no longer a harsh judge of yourself. The mistakes, the moments of weakness, the unfinished or imperfect parts you once tried so hard to deny or correct, now are seen with a strange, gentle acceptance. This isn't resignation, but a peaceful agreement with the complex nature of who you are. Jung once said, "The ultimate goal of psychology is not perfection, a place of only light with no shadow, but wholeness, the ability to embrace every part of yourself, even those once deemed ugly or unwanted." Like a masterpiece of chiaroscuro, it is the interplay of shadow and light that creates depth and life. A human life is the same. Scars, mistakes, clumsiness, and pain aren't stains, but unique wood grain, making you beautifully, unmistakably yourself. You might find yourself wanting to tell the truth, to share your real stories without fear of judgment. You no longer try to play a perfect version to be loved, but allow yourself to simply be human, with all your fragility, awkwardness, as well as your strength, creativity, and honesty. This is the moment you realize that a person's true beauty comes when they allow themselves to be just as they are, with all the flaws that have become their own unique charm. Now, your scars are witnesses to your journey, a map of the inner battles you've survived. Just as light is most glorious when it shines through clouds, your soul grows deeper and more radiant when it holds both sunshine and shadow, triumph and failure, gentleness and resilience. This is true wholeness, the foundation for an inner freedom you once thought was impossible. Sign 16. Unstoppable creative longing, the soul's command. If earlier, at sign 13, creativity was a joyful impulse, pure and bright, then at this level, creative longing has become your very breath, the essential nature of your soul. No longer just a periodic activity. Creativity now weaves into every area of your life. You write not just to create, but to understand yourself. You build, organize, love, and even do business with the spirit of an artist, turning your life itself into a living, evolving masterpiece. You may notice this creativity is no longer limited to the arts. It's in how you see the world, solve problems, nurture relationships, and overcome challenges. Every action, every decision is infused with freedom and inspiration. You live with a new sense. I don't just create art, I become art. Your life is a living canvas, where every moment, every choice adds to the whole. Like a dancer no longer afraid of being watched, you lose yourself in your own dance. Like a painter boldly creating with striking colors, you let your soul hold the brush, painting your destiny each day. Every action becomes a chance to express the self, that deep, potent core, through every breath, glance, and smallest gesture. Here, creativity is no longer the privilege of artists, but the essence of a mature soul. Someone who can love the unfinished, who can use darkness as raw material, and who knows that each day is an opportunity to play their soul's one-of-a-kind symphony with the universe. Look at the life of Maya Angelou. Before becoming an icon of American literature, she was a silent child for 5 years after a trauma, a poor single mother, even someone lost in the lowest jobs of society. But Maya didn't discard those broken pieces. She gathered them all, pain, shame, love, and hope, to craft the living material of her classic memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. More than that, she turned every facet of her life into art, becoming a professional dancer, the first black female streetcar conductor in San Francisco, a chef, a director, a civil rights activist alongside Martin Luther King Jr. There's a well-known story of Maya hosting dinner parties where she cooked for friends. The way she seasoned food, told stories, laughed out loud, all radiated the same fierce creative energy as when she wrote. She once said, "You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have." Her life is the most powerful testimony to Sign 16. She never tried to be perfect. She turned her scarred life into her greatest masterpiece, where she was both author and main character. So can you. You don't have to chase after someone else's idea of success or measure yourself by outside standards. It's your imperfection and the ever-flowing creative force within you that signal you've entered the soul's most empowered stage, where you are the author, the creation, and the witness to your own journey of becoming whole. Sign 17, living your truth, radical courage. On the journey of spiritual maturity, there is a threshold where many people pause before daring to step through, the doorway of bare, unfiltered truth. This is the moment you feel, more clearly than ever, that hiding yourself, even in the form of small, polite lies to please others, becomes unbearable. You may notice you no longer adapt to social expectations, no longer silence your inner voice just to keep the peace or to be liked. This kind of courage doesn't come from rebellion or carelessness, but from a deep inner alignment. Jung called this the peak of individuation, when consciousness and the unconscious have integrated, and you no longer need to perform. Living your truth isn't about selfishness or bluntness. It's the bravery to look honestly at yourself, to voice your soul's message, even when it risks upsetting others, even when it brings distance, misunderstanding, or judgment. You will feel a profound sense of liberation when you stop straining under the weight of social masks. Even though the price of truth might sometimes be temporary loneliness or the loss of relationships that no longer fit, the price of falsehood, losing connection with yourself, is far worse. That's why those who dare to live authentically often radiate a quiet magnetism, even if not everyone understands or agrees with the person they've become. Imagine yourself as a tree with roots deep in the earth, no longer trembling in the wind, no longer stretching in someone else's direction, but standing upright, free, and steadfast on your own path. At this point, truth is no longer a burden you struggle to bear, but becomes the light, effortless wings that carry you further than you ever dreamed possible. Sign 18, inner peace, independent of circumstances, the eye of the storm. This is the pinnacle of the process of rebirth, the final and deepest sign that you have entered the soul's most empowered stage. This peace is not a fleeting calm that comes when things are easy, but a steady, unwavering state that cannot be disturbed by any storm in the outside world. You may still be living in the rush of daily life, sometimes facing great challenges or upheavals. Yet, deep within you, there is always a still point, like the center of a storm, where no matter how fierce the winds outside, they can't reach you. It is a sense of resting, a gentle yet unshakable strength that keeps you from overreacting to events, letting you observe them with calm understanding. Jung once described this state as finding the self, the center of the soul's mandala. In the past, you may have always searched for peace outside yourself, a stable job, a safe relationship, the approval of others. But now you realize you are your own endless source of peace. This peace doesn't depend on circumstances, doesn't come from controlling or escaping reality, but from integrating every experience, including suffering, into the flow of life. You no longer panic when things change, nor fear the uncertainties of the future. Instead, you see the world through the gentle eyes of someone who has stumbled, who has broken, who has healed, and now knows that every storm is part of the journey. This peace isn't a fleeting feeling, but a sacred inner space you can return to at any time, no matter how noisy or challenging the outside world becomes. Perhaps this is also the moment you realize you no longer need to search for anything more. You pause, fully present in each moment, recognizing that you already have everything you need to live a meaningful, complete life. You are no longer a seeker of peace. You are peace itself. This is the clearest sign that you have stepped into a most powerful stage of your soul, where life is no longer a race, but a journey of resting, creating, and loving yourself and this world unconditionally. The final message: you don't need to search far away. Don't need to fix yourself to be accepted. Don't need to strive or struggle to find peace. Everything is already within you right now, just waiting for you to return and recognize it. And that is the greatest power your soul has ever known. After all, as you look back on the journey we've just walked together, you may realize the 18 signs that once seemed like a series of crises and losses are actually sacred milestones, marking a soul's rite of passage. The cracking of the ego, the emptiness, the strange dreams, the loneliness, the intense inner conflicts, all these are only the beginning of the deepest cleansing, healing, and rebirth that each of us can experience. You've learned how to listen to the voice of the unconscious, dared to face your shadow, let go of false successes, and step by step, reconnected with your true nature. You see now that suffering is not the end, but the start of a new kind of peace. A peace that does not depend on outer circumstances, but grows from the reconciliation between light and shadow within. And don't let this video pass by as just another piece of entertainment. If you see yourself in these 18 signs, the universe is knocking at your door. Type "I am ready" in the comments below as a commitment to your own soul. Your journey begins right now. I'd also love to hear your story. Out of these 18 signs, which one touched you most deeply? Which stage of this journey are you in? Share in the comments below, because your honesty may be the lantern that lights the way for someone else on their path to individuation. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to continue walking together on the path of healing and becoming whole. Future videos will open new doors, guiding you even deeper on the journey back to yourself, and you won't want to miss them. Remember, you are not alone. You're simply on your way home.